Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me.
Down the inside,
Absolutely impossible scene.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We'll go bust. We got our elbows out.
Ronnar takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Jarno Watmere is your champion.
And here we are. Welcome everyone and a very good evening. We've had our break and we're back and we're heading down south to Texas. I'll be your host for tonight. My name is Mid-Sky and as per usual, you're joined here by Max.
Hello everybody, pleasure to be back once again in the commentary box. Should be a very good one this evening. Should be an interesting race. No more breaks for the rest of the season. From this point onwards, we are straight through to round 12 at Mexico. And of course, Myth, as already mentioned, we're here at Texas tonight. But how are you this evening, Myth? After a week away, the championship seems to be spicing up a little bit.
Yeah, doing quite good indeed. As you know, last week we had our break. Week before that, we're supposed to go to Bahrain. Could go there. We went to Qatar. And what we saw was that our championship leader, Alexander Dimas, had a prime opportunity to extend his gap out at front on Galindo, Kennis, Adolfs, and Piasecki, because they all did not participate in round 7. I'll quickly show you the current standings and see how well Dimas did. The standing. My apologies. Because what could have been a great night for Dimas only ended up in P6 after he got some damage, which meant he did extend his gap a little bit, but the gap now 16 points, about a whole race worth. But with Carlos Galindo returning tonight, he's looking to decrease that gap. So Max, where he had the prime opportunity to score a lot of points, he could do no more than 5 points. That could have been 16.
Yeah, I mean, he really did not capitalise on the opportunity he had in front of him. So Dimas, he would have been disappointed with that, knowing he could have really, even a third place finish would have got him an extra 5 points onto that. He would have got 10 points overall. It would have been better, of course, and he would have been able to capitalise on Galindo not being here. So he's still got that race lead advantage on that 16 points over Carlos Galindo. But one DNF, a couple poor results in a row, that could instantly switch back into the Alpine driver's favour, second in the standings, and it all flips on its head. So, yeah, for Dimas, he would have been very disappointed, didn't capitalise when he needed to the most, and he could potentially pay the price by the time we get to Mexico, where he could be one-on-one with Galindo for the championship.
Yeah, indeed, because if we look at the standings once more, Giovanni Kennis, who's currently in third, will also not be present here tonight, which means that the men behind him have an opportunity to take over at least spot 3 in the championship. The gap to Galindo is too big as for now. But yeah, it seems to be going down to a two-man fight, but all of that can look different after tonight, after we race here in Texas. Of course, we have 5 rounds still to go, so there's still a lot of points to distribute. But yeah, for Dimas, he's won 3 out of 7 races. That's quite dominating. And for Galindo, despite scoring 4 second place finishes out of the 6 races he participated in, he has yet to win one. Can tonight be the night?
Certainly would love it to be. I mean, look at that. He had 3 second places in a row. That is just sheer consistency from Carlos Galindo. And of course, it got broken thanks to his non-participation last time out in Qatar. But of course, here in Texas, it's a completely different beast to Qatar. It'll be interesting to see how the drivers cope with the track limits, with the tyre wear. And overall, it's a circuit where it invites more overtaking, doesn't it? If there's plenty more opportunities compared to Qatar, so I'm expecting a bit more action here this evening. And for the likes of Dimas and Galindo, Galindo's not really got much to lose in the sense of trying to close down this gap. He knows he needs to outscore Dimas, but for Dimas, he's got to keep that car safe. 16 points isn't as big as he would have wanted, and he's really going to have to start to play things safe for the rest of the season. He can't go for too many risky moves.
Yeah, especially if you look at the point distribution. I mean, first place gets 16, second place gets 12. If in the unlikely event we see Galindo win the next 4 races, Dimas coming in second in all of those, then we're tied on equal points heading into the final race. So a lot can indeed happen. But for starters, Galindo will have to take a chunk out of that gap, that 16-point gap towards Alexander Dimas. In the meantime, we have gone into the lobby, so I'm quickly going to switch over to race screen, and I quickly want to give a shout out to SRC for providing the nice sim setups. They are now also present in our overlays as our sponsor, so huge shout out to them. If you haven't checked them out before, make sure to do so. Now then, qualifying session is underway. I think one of the Red Bulls the first one to leave pit lane, so that will be either Dimas or Alessandro Finn. I'll make sure that the lap data and the track maps are up for everyone, so we can all watch and shiver to see how everyone is going to go down. And it is indeed Alessandro Finn, the first one to leave pit lane. Behind him, Jonas Orpel, who is also out on track. More cars heading now out on the circuit of the Americas, 5.5 kilometers long and 20 turns, quite a lot, but one of the more crucial corners will be turn 19, where it's very easy to overstep and to catch a track limit.
Yeah, it certainly is. A lot of these corners very easy, just to overstep that mark ever so slightly. And coming up here with Alessandro Finn into turn 11 is one of the corners where it's a little bit more tricky to do just that. So, of course, this circuit, even though it joined in 2012, has always produced some brilliant racing in the real-life F1 calendar and also in the sim racing 1-2. And it should be a very nice, action-packed, chaotic race as well this evening. So for Alessandro Finn, setting up through this final sector is really an invalidation hotspot. You can either jump too far over an apex or just run that little bit too far wide through some of the corners, and that will see your lap over and done with as he's heading into the penultimate corner now. He will get us underway. Only one car still in the pit lane. That's Oscar Villacampa. And we'll see what Finn can do as he starts his lap now.
Yeah, he goes fairly wide on the exit to head over down on the start-finish straight. A little bit of a squabble there, but now he's going to break into turn 1. He's come out quite early, and it's actually looking fairly dark up ahead. So I'm not sure if the weather is going to come into play later on, as he had quite a bit of space in the inside left of turn 1. Now going into the Mickey Mouse section, doing so nicely. A lot of speed he's able to carry through. Good downshift down to 6th before shifting back to 5th. And the 24-7 will be his first sector time. We have a yellow in sector 3. That's usually for the cars slowing down a little bit to line themselves up. But for so far, Max, it looks like Alessandro Finn is doing quite nicely, especially here in the airpin, where he's able to hit those marks very nicely.
Yeah, seems as that to be very hooked up at the moment. Not really putting a foot wrong just yet. And it's been very smooth as it currently stands. He now heads into turn 12. Late braking, make sure not to lock the rears or cut too much over that inside apex curve. Nicely done through there from Finn. Middle sector benchmark, a 1 minute point 9. So as we head out of turns 13 and 14, now into turn 15. Nicely done through there, through the double left-hander. Easy to clinch a front brake as now we head through 16, 17 and 18. The triple right-hander. And that's nicely done through there too. Now into penultimate corner. Make sure you watch out for track limits a little bit wide from the apex. It's going to hurt his run all the way down into the final corner. And for Finn, there is a little bit of time to be found in this final sector, at least. Across the line he goes. The benchmark, it is a 30.892. Can Jonas Orpel go quicker than that as he now comes up to the line? No, he goes 2 tenths shy. So for Alessandro Finn, he's beat one car. And if the rain is coming, that means he's not going to be starting last at the very least.
Yeah, and I'm currently looking at our race winner last time at Oleg Napadolsky. His first race that he was participating in PCF4, immediately managed to win that, and his middle sector is already 2 tenths quicker than current fastest lap time set by Alessandro Finn. Thomas Laminen has just pipped that, but looks like Oleg is on for a better run, and that is a huge bite out of that lap time. A 1:30.2. That's some insane stuff by the Mercedes man.
Yeah, super fast, of course, last time out in Qatar, took pole position in the dying embers, snatched it back from Jensen Rosen's grasp as Jeremy Gallinet now goes up into second. Alexi Cavero up to the line, he goes fourth. Dimas has made a mistake in the penultimate corner on his lap as Chanakinchi goes up to third. Lovely stuff from the two Haas drivers. Here comes Dimas, the championship leader, to the line. He only goes 11th fastest. Seemed to be a very scrappy lap indeed from the championship leader, and 11th is not where he'll want to be, especially with his championship rival of Carlos Galindo up in 8th, so does have that advantage over him ever so slightly. And of course, don't forget, a point for pole position. That could be oh so crucial this evening here, Miff, and for the rest of the season, because that is an extra 5 points that can mathematically be in play for both Galindo and Dimas.
Yeah, indeed, and now the only man that is still on a fast run is Oscar Villacampa. But in the middle sector, already down 6/10 on the fastest lap time set by Oleg Napadovsky. I think we're aiming, at least later on in the session, for a 1 minute, 0.5, maybe 0.6. I think 0.5 will likely be what we're going to see, and a pole lap time of around that 1:30.0, maybe even in the 29s if they do well, as Oscar Villacampa picks up track limits in turn 19. But this is something that we saw, because the gap between Oleg and, just to go back to the man that set the first lap time, Alessandro Finn, the gap now is 6/10. But after Sector 2, this was only 2/10, so that means that Oleg managed to gain a whopping 4/10 onto Alessandro Finn in that final sector, and the key in there is turn 19. If you can nail it, you can easily win 2 to 3/10s, and if you overshoot it, you either go too slow or you get track limit. So turn 19, the key of this session.
It certainly is. I mean, we saw Dimas make a mistake through there as well, and he's only just slotted in around about half a tenth behind his teammate Alessandro Finn. Just shows how crucial that mistake is, and they're on for relatively similar lap times with that middle sector if they both did make the mistake as well. So this is the biggest spread we have seen from these drivers this season so far in the first part of qualifying, the first few runs. So it just shows how difficult this circuit is to nail. Of course, many a different corner, setup direction can be completely different for some of these drivers too. Of course, you've got the really long back straight, and also heading up into turn 1 as well. Do you maximize top end speed going for lower downforce, or do you focus on the corners, especially in qualifying through that S section in the final sector as well, where it's all corner based, all downforce based, so you pick up a bit more on the front and rear end to then just help carry your car along. Those can also be some big differences, and that could also be why if we're seeing those mistakes into corners like turn 19 when you need that high mechanical downforce.
Yeah, I think for the drivers, what would be a better setup is to go for a little bit more downforce. I mean, in the race, we expect to be having a lot of DRS trains. There are also 2 DRS zones. The first of those is where Jonas Orpel is currently driving. The other one is on the start-finish straight. But you want to be quicker in those mid-sections, gain a couple of tenths, make it a little bit more difficult for everyone to overtake you. And if you do get overtaken on the long backstretch, that you still have enough downforce and enough grip to try and go for an overtake in the latter section of the track and get the race win that way. So that is something the drivers should also consider. And also notice is where Jonas currently is out on track. They're taking a much wider approach than they were in the previous games. So it looks like that is where the grip is to be found. But once again, there's only really a couple of corners where you can make a difference here. Turn 1's one of those corners. Then the whole rest of the first sector is almost flat out. There's not much you can gain there on your other competitors because they will drive pretty much the same. The hairpin, you can gain a little bit of time, although most drivers are quite experienced in that. The hard braking zone, of course, for turn 12 is another key moment. And then, yeah, finally the turn 19 that I mentioned before. Those are the crucial points of this qualifying session. And in the meantime, Jonas has gone on with the lap. So let's go on board with him. And Max, take it away.
Well, then here we are, just finishing off that first sector as the up or down. He's up by nearly 0.2 of a second. Of course, currently slowest of the time set so far as we head out of turn 9. Turn 10, this little kink left. You don't really think about it. It's all just about your approach. Up into turn 11, will be braking at around about 75 meters down to third gear. Just clip that inside apex curve, run the car out wide, and it's just a long old drag. all the way down into turn 12. Up the hill before you go back down. It undulates a lot, this circuit. Many high points of elevation. Then braking while going down a hill and turning. Easy to lock up a brake, but for Jonas, he gets that quite nice as we now head through the middle sector. But he's up by nearly 3.5 tenths of a second now is the kick Sauber. So he is finding time all the way through this circuit. Now to turn 15, just a little bit wide from where he would have wanted to be at the apex. As we now head through the triple right hand to keep a tight line through there. Then swing it a little bit further out to then cut back in yourself into turn 19, down to 6th gear, a little bit hesitant through there and potentially didn't downshift as many times as he would have wanted. Now into the final corner, all about this exit, a little bit squirrely as he comes up to the line. It's a 30.679, 4 tenths found. Lovely stuff from Jonas Orpel. What about the man second in the standings? He's up by nearly 3 tenths of a second in the middle sector. Up to the line comes Carlos Galindo, and he goes faster than them all. A brilliant final sector for the man second in the standings, and that is a spectacular lap time, but Napadovsky is going to be rivaling that one.
Yeah, so let's watch Napadovsky as he comes around the track. Just to quickly go back to Jonas Orpel to talk about his lap. We saw some key moments in that lap. Turn 12 seemed to steer just a little bit too early, enter that corner. Took a lot of curb. Surprised he didn't get any track limits. Lost a little bit of time there. And a similar thing that he did in turn 19. That seemed to be looking a lot better, but kept that car in 6th gear, where perhaps 5th would have been a little better. For Napadovsky, though, his middle sector is a huge improvement. He was down in the first sector. He's found 2/10 in that middle sector, and he's on for a great run. Let's go on board with the Mercedes-man once more as he's going down the final 15 seconds of this track. It's starting to get darker and darker around the track, but with how the drivers are behaving, I'm not sure if we're going to see much of that rain. That was an excellent turn 19 and turn 20 as well. Driving it through nicely, a little bit of sliding on exit, but a 1:30.119, that's a great second run. And Oleg is the man to beat here tonight.
He certainly is. That's a spectacular lap from Napadovsky. A 30.1. That is just absolutely insane. And Chanakinchi moves himself up into 3rd, even though his teammate Galanay did improve ever so slightly. Rosen up into 5th. I was on board with Dimas, and he actually invalidated at some point further around the lap. And that, unfortunately for him, sees him slowest of all thus far. Carlos Galindo will be licking his lips at the opportunity he now has as it currently stands in this qualifying session. It'll be one more run for these drivers, and the pressure is on Alexander Dimas. What about Villacampa, who's just starting? He's that now actually invalidated. He's a previous attempt, so his lap does not stand. So another lap time that got invalidated from the Williams. Unfortunately, sees himself say slowest of all. But for Carlos Galindo, it is the upper hand for him at this midpoint of qualifying. But for Alexander Dimas, he has one run to fight back.
Yeah, I was just trying to flip through the drivers as well, just like you were doing, Max, but I was noticing that pretty much all the drivers that were either on a run or at least about to start a run had invalidated their lap, so not a lot of second runs we did see come in there. And yeah, for Dimas, it really is key that he nails that final run, because he's currently in P13, not the place where he wants to start. His direct competitor finds himself in P2, that place he is also familiar with, so he's doing quite well. But to be honest, Max, I think we're seeing a similar thing that we saw last week, and it was Oleg who's just that tad quicker in qualifying, and it's going to be very, very tough to beat in the race as well. So one can wonder, Max, what if Oleg had been there at the start of the season? Would he be a contender? What do you think?
I think he certainly could have been. I mean, never say never. He's 55 points back. There's still enough on offer for the rest of the season for him to get in even into the top 3. So there's still a chance for Napadovsky to potentially play a part in his own standings and to get up into that top 3. But yeah, he certainly could have been fighting for this title. Could Oleg? He has just shown over these past, well, 1 and a bit rounds now, that he's just got lightning quick pace. Of course, here at Texas, it's a bit easier to make those overtakes. There is plenty more opportunities. It's not really down into turn 1 and that's it. You have the likes of turn 1, turn 12, turn 11's even an overtaking opportunity as well. And then also into 15. And you can potentially send one into the final corner depending how the run is for the other driver out of 19. So there's more opportunities, and qualifying is not everything around Texas like it is at Qatar, but still having that track position, being in the lead of the race, you can control things, you can make the momentum shift from car to car, from lap to lap. So it really does help. And for Napadowski here this evening, he certainly has the opportunity to just really cement himself and give himself a bit of a threat and a bit of a worry to everybody else that I'm here to stay. And I will want to win as many races as I can for the end of the season. Just because you're in a championship fight doesn't mean I'm going to back down. And he's going to give it his all. And for Dimas, as I mentioned just about the plenty of overtaking opportunities, qualifying may not mean everything. But compared to last year's game, it is so much more difficult to make your way up through the field than it was only, 6 months ago.
Yeah, and another key example of that was, of course, the race that we saw in Hungary, where it was Dimas stopping so much earlier than all the other drivers. But because there was a DRS train, it was pretty much impossible to overtake him, even though his tires were almost 10 laps older than the ones chasing him. And that's how he was able to hold out and get his 4th win of the season at that point. Still on 4 wins, but out of 7 races, of course, that is a massive number. Tonight, it's not looking as easy for him. He has managed to get out there on the track. We see him now in Sector 1, just behind, I think that's the Williams of Jensen Rowson, who'll be looking at later. Alessandro Finn, the furthest down the line. I'm trying to see where I can find Oleg Napadowski. He seems to be in P5 in that queue. Now going to the first detection zone, I believe. There he is. Yeah. But yeah, Alessandro Finn now making his way through turn 19. We're going to go on board once more for the final time here tonight in qualifying session. It's 1 minute 40 left on the clock. Finn takes a white line and he starts his final run.
He certainly does. Crunch time starts now, ladies and gentlemen. And for Alessandro Finn, he needs to find near on 0.3 of a second to try snatch pole position away from the Mercedes of Oleg Napadowski. So nicely done through turn 1 there. Little lock up at the brake, but won't affect him too much as we now head through the S section of 3, 4, 5. Then into 6. You just want to try and keep it as flat out as possible. A little bit of rear sliding there, but still up by just under 0.04 of a second. For Alessandro Finn. Through turn 9 was a little bit hesitant through there on the turning. That's going to affect his run. Down through 10 and then up into turn 11. Down to 3rd gear. You'll hear the rear axle just complaining on the corner exit ever so slightly. You just slam your foot to the floor to get the best drive possible all the way down into turn 12. DRS open for the Italian, as we can see what he can do in the middle sector split very shortly. Only one more corner left of this middle sector. That's turn 12. Maybe a little bit too early on the brakes. Might have just cost him ever so slightly, and it has. He's down a little bit in that middle sector. 17,000 separates him and his previous best as we now head through turn 15. That's a lot better this time around from Alessandro Finn than we saw a few laps ago. Now heading through the triple right-hander. Can he find any sort of improvement? 2,000s sees him in front of Jensen Rowson. Another 6 sees him in front of Jeremy Gallinet. So for Alessandro Finn, up to the line, will there be any sort of improvement? Here he comes. No, yes, there is. 4th fastest from Alessandro Finn. Jonas Orpel now heading up to the line. What can he do? He invalidates at the final corner. Unfortunately for him, won't be able to see that improvement as we now see Alexi Cavero coming up to the line, sliding through that final corner. He goes up into 7th place. Nice stuff from Cavero, but all eyes now turn to Alexander Dimas, currently 13th fastest, but up by 0.3 in the middle sector.
Yeah, it's seeming to be a great run by Dimas, but I saw Oleg Napadowski was already up a 10th.5 just in the first sector, which could be an amazing run. But first, Dimas, he has to improve. He has to improve tons. That final sector needs to be good, and it is good because that is a P5. But here comes Oleg Napadowski. He's lost a little bit of time in the middle sector. He improves in that final run. But where is Galindo? A hard Turn 19. Can he still get closer? The gap, though, seems to be insurmountable. It is insurmountable. He can't get the improvement done. Alessandro Finn won't go for another. Ryan Bakar is actually up by a 10th as well. That could be a nice improvement, but for now might only be enough to snatch away P9 from Cavero unless that final sector is good enough. He comes across the line and he goes into P9, and that is qualifying session done. It's pole position by almost 2/10 for Oleg Napadovsky, and once again the Mercedes man is showing who's boss.
Yes, he certainly is. The flying Finn back on top once more. And just like we said in Qatar, he was dominant throughout the session, but this time he got it back in the midpoint once again. Of course, this time it was Galindo who snatched it away from him, but he just seems to have that extra couple attempts, and he just can seem to dig a little bit deeper than everybody else. And another dominant pole position with a FVR 1-2-3. That would be brilliant if it was something like E-Series, a team event, but here it's every driver for themselves. But for Napadovsky, exactly how he'll want to continue his hot form. But of course, quali pace is one thing. It's not the points that are given out, really, on the qualifying. Of course, he gets an extra point for that pole position, but it'll be in the race where we see those points. And for Carlos Galindo, he's got a healthy advantage over Alexander Dimas. He's in second, and Dimas is in sixth.
Yeah, so that is some great gap that he already has secured in this qualifying session. Just to go through the full standings here for you, the full 14-man of Oskar Villapampa sadly was not able to set a times. Pole position, Napadovsky, followed by Galindo, Jensen Ralston, Charnakinshi, Alessandro Finn. Then it's Dimas, Galanay, Gobadi, Bakar, Covero, Piasecki, Orpel, Laminen, and indeed finally in P14, Oskar Villapampa in the Williams. Now that means that we can quickly go back to our little camera screen here. I'm going to show you the track map once again, since we have a little bit of time, as it's all sunny out there in Texas for the race. Yeah, we can do the track map. We can do the track map. It is the Circuit of the Americas, already mentioned, 5.5 kilometers long, 3.4 miles, 20 turns with 2 DRS zones. A lap record in race, a real F1 of a 1:36. The first race here was in 2012, one of the Tilke circuits, with an 18.6 pit stop lane time loss that can be found there. But we're going to switch over once more to our race view max, because, like I mentioned, it's all sunny, not a cloud to be spotted, quite the opposite of what we had in qualifying, so I don't think there's any threat of rain.
I don't think so either, unless we get something later on in this race. And for Dimas, if everything stays as it is for the opening few laps, he potentially would want some rain just to cause up some chaos and see himself close in on Carlos Galindo. If they finished as they started, of course, Dimas will get another 5 points to his name. And that'll be 12 points going to the way of Galindo. So a healthy chunk taken out of Alexander Dimas's league. And it's stuff like this here, Myth, where even though it's a second and a fifth, that's still a second and a sixth. If it finishes that way, that's still a healthy chunk in the standings and a healthy chunk of points taken out of Alexander Dimas's lead. And that reduces it to basically nothing. And any result that Galindo gets in front could see him then snatch that championship lead back away.
Yeah, I think for Galindo's just key to end up on the podium here tonight, and hoping that Dimas doesn't make it there, so he can at least gain 2, 4, if not more. That is just the best that he can do, but he's going to have a real fight on his hand with Oleg Napadovsky, who's starting from pole. We have the lights coming on, but 4 and 5 are at lights. And away we are here for round 8 in Texas, with the outside line for Napadovsky. Galindo will be on the inside, immediately covered by the Mercedes man. And for Galindo, he has to watch out. He tries to go around the outside, but down the insides already. Jensen Ralston, who's had a rocket of a start. Chanakinshi has dropped a few places. Dimas is already up in 4th. We have when the McLaren's trying to have a little look down the inside. There's some, looks like some damage there, or it is just some track views that we have there. Scavero moves up into P10. Laminen dropping down a little bit. Orpel fighting with Villapampa tooth and nail for that final position out there on track. Side by side they go, but a better run for the Gek Sauber man as they still go side by side into the heartbreaking zone of turn 11. And it will be a send down the inside by Oscar. He has a little bit of a slide on exit that will cost him the position, at least for now. But further up ahead, it looks like Oleg has managed to at least hang on to that pole position. But a great start for Dimas and for Galindo. The best he could do is just stay in position. But for Dimas, he is coming closer.
Yeah, up 2 places from the start is Alexander Dimas now up into 4th, was able to jump both Galinay and Akinci. There we can see to the inside goes Gabadi on the inside of the house of Akinci. So a lovely move from the McLaren. A little bit of contact made between the pair, but nothing but hard racing, and that is the move being made up into 5th place for Abe Gabadi. And we're going to see what if Akinci can respond, or is the McLaren going to just set his sights on the Red Bull in front? Akinci is all over the back of the McLaren as we exit out of turn 20. It's been a beautiful start for Oleg Nabadowski and Carlos Galindo. They're exactly where they need to be as we head up into turn 1. And no moves being made from the top 7 as actually Ryan Bakar is going for the move on Alessandro Finn. Does get the move done, and the 2 Ferraris now squabbling side by side as Alexei Kavoro and Thomas Laminen squabbling this one out. It just shows how it's every man for himself in this championship. Not even teammates help each other on the road. And for Laminen, he's able to pick off that position, and Kavoro just falling down the order ever so slightly. And Laminen will now set his sights on Alessandro Finn as Napadowski could be under threat now down the back straight from Galindo.
And that is a very, very early 3-second time penalty for Alexei Kaviro for overstepping his boundaries with track limits. Hitting 3 track limits within, well, basically a lap and a first sector is quite the achievement, but it's definitely going to hurt his chances for scoring some nice points tonight. He's currently down 1 place, same as for the likes of Igor Przeszki, Jonas Orpel. Chan Akinci has dropped 2 places. Alessandro Finn has dropped a whole 4. Not a great start for him. Bakar has gained 3 places gained for Thomas Laminen. Same for Ave Gobadi, who's had a great start. And also Alexander Dimas gaining 2 places right there at the start. A great start by the Red Bull driver. But for now, he seems to be put in 4th. Not much that he can do there, just staying put. As I want to see... the gaps are actually starting to stabilize a little bit around the half a second mark, Max. I don't think, at least for now, a lot of moves can be made. If there's anyone who really wants to make a move, it will be Cavero, who's starting to get closer to his teammate in P10.
It really would be. So, of course, with the dirty air on this game, it's a lot more of an effect. And through the first and final sector, the car will be sliding all over the road, especially for the likes of Galindo, who's behind Napadowski, who, of course, doesn't have any of that dirty air effect. So for Galindo, his front end will just be trying to grip up, and he'll be understeer all the way through some of these corners. And it's really difficult to combat that because, of course, you add more wear to the tyre and you start to slide even more, and it's just a never-ending cycle. So, yeah, I'm expecting a big DRS train as it currently stands. Of course, no one's going to be pushing for positions. They're not going to be too hot on each other's heels because it's too early in the race. I mean, we're only on lap 3 of 28. It's a long race, this. It's a game of chess, and you got to just push at the right time. So that'll be at the end of the stint. So these drivers will be focusing on just building up a rhythm for now. Then they'll start to attack. And by around about, I would say, lap 12, lap 13 is when we're going to see drivers really start to push one another to a limit. So, yeah, it really is just a massive game of chess, and these drivers, they're just going to be nursing those tyres and just finding their feet in these early stages of the race.
Yeah, in the meantime, while we have some time to check all the drivers, I quickly want to take a look if any of the drivers have sustained any damage in lap 1, because I did think I saw some bodywork flying around. I don't see anything for now. Quickly trying to check everyone. Top 10 seems to be clean. Yes, is clean indeed. How about Cavero? No, Cavero's lost a front wing end plate. That's what I thought. The driver view, his left-hand side, that's where he's missing a front wing end plate. Man behind him, Piasecki, seems to be all good. Jonas Orpel then, having a top view at the moment, the helicam. I'm not hearing any to come by the camera, so that is all fine. But I want to see if Orpel and Villacampa have any damage to their front wings. It looks clean for Orpel and Villacampa, so the only man with some damage is indeed Cavero. So we did see the bodywork flying, Max. At least my eyes were not deceived.
Yes, unfortunate for Cavero, not only adding to the woes of his 3-second time penalty, he's got to nurse that front wing damage as well. And around a circuit like this, especially in that first sector where you're going through that S section, that front wing damage will play a huge impact, especially through that long right-hander, just at the exit of the S's before you start the middle sector. That front left is put under a lot of load, and so is the left-hand side of the front wing. So you're going to be hemorrhaging a lot of time for there, but he's still been able to hang on to his teammate Thomas Laminen quite nicely, even with that damage. So it does show that he does have some pace down the straights, and he's trying to manage it well. All it takes is maybe just a little bit of more braking into the corners, just going a little bit earlier on the brakes, and just a bit more Lyco compared to the rest of the field. And actually, crucially as well here, Myth, Dimas now out of a second from Jensen Rosen. This surely is going to put him under all sorts of pressure from Gabadi behind.
Yeah, the good thing is he did still have the DRS on the start-finish straight, so I think he made a mistake coming out of turn 19, maybe even in turn 20, as he's currently on for quite the improvement in the first sector, of course, using that DRS to his advantage to claw back within a second of the Williams man up ahead. So that means he will stay within that DRS train, not create a second one, because if he does create a second one, he will be a sitting duck to likes of Ave Gobadi, Chana Kinshi, and Jeremy Gallané are currently behind him. I want to quickly move over to Igor Piasecki, who's gone within 3.5 tenths of the Ferrari men up ahead. Remember that Ferrari of Alexi Cavero has got some front wing damage, so maybe for Piasecki he's able to come a little bit closer and try and mount an attack, or at least build up to an attack in the next coming laps. But it looks like, at least for now, he's seemingly stuck. There's not much that he can do about it. Chana Kinshi has also gone a little bit closer to Ave Gobadi, who's dropped back 7 tenths behind Alexander Dimas, our championship leader. But we see once again, Max, the key is to keep it nicely through turn 19, a good run up into turn 20, because that's where mistakes are made. You might not immediately lose the DRS, but that's where at least some time can be lost, as it's Alexi Cavero, the first man to head into pit lane. Might go for a new front wing as well. It looks like they've made that decision, and he has switched over to the hard compound. A very early pit stop. I think he'll be going for a 2-stopper then, by the looks of it. But something we haven't mentioned yet, every driver was on the same strategy as everyone started on the mediums.
Yes, they did. They all started on that yellow-walled medium compounded tyres. But yeah, that one mistake you can make through that final sector, you can really or even in the first sector where you just potentially lose 3-4 tenths of a second, that can drop you out of that DRS window. It's so crucial to your race. But I think for someone like Dimas, you're a bit more lucky in that aspect, that the top three then into especially the harder braking zones, like here at turn 12, turns 1 and turn 11, they all then bottle up, they bottleneck, so it allows you to carry a bit more speed into the corner. You can be later on the brakes and then find that time you lost straight back into action. So it swings and roundabouts, really. If you lose a bit of time, you're able to find it back under braking, but if you drop too far back, that's when it does start to get difficult. And say if it's Napadowski who breaks away from Galindo, he doesn't have that same situation. He doesn't have that effect from Napadowski onto the cars but in front of him. So he, of course, Napadowski by himself would just be able to fly off into the distance. So it really is just all about how the drivers now play this one. And for Napadowski, if he does break that DRS, it's good news for him, because he can just shake off the cars behind, build a nice, lovely gap to everybody else, and see himself clear down the road. So there's big swings and roundabouts, and the situations all have different contexts. And one mistake, depending wherever you are in the field, you can either find that time back, or if it's just one car in front of you, you're completely done for.
Yeah, and another thing that I'm currently keeping an eye on is what is happening with the gap to Alexi Cavero. Interesting to note, in the backstretch, he lost about 5 to 6 tenths because of the other cars having DRS. On the main straight, this was more 3 to 4 tenths, so he's losing almost a whole second based on that DRS strain. And when he left pit lane, the gap was 22.8. We're now a lap later and it's at 22.3, so he's only gained about half a second. So it seems like the overcut is not that powerful, and where he might gain a little bit, well, now of course the gap's a lot smaller. He's going to lose a ton now on the main on the back straight, But the overcut, not that powerful. But what I'm most curious about, Max, is when our other drivers are going to head into pit lane. Are we going to see 1 or 2 stoppers? Covero definitely seems to be going for a 2-stopper. With how the tires react in this game, I have a feeling that a 2-stopper might be quicker, but the drivers might surprise us. Dimas has actually gone into pit lane, so he's not going for a 1-stop like he did in Hungary. He knows he has to go for a 2-stop, and it's lap 8 and more drivers following. Laminen is in, together with Piasecki and Jonas Orpel. They should come out just behind Covero. As for Dimas, of course, he will come out quite far ahead. But let's move over to Covero so we can see where he currently is on track. He is now heading on to that main straight. Most of the drivers already leaving pit lane. Keep in mind, Covero also had to change his front wing. So that is why he does come out behind quite a bit. But if he can gain a little bit of time with those warmer tires, he can at least slot in behind. But he's picked up yet another time penalty for track limits. Max, definitely not denied for Covero here.
Certainly is not, and I think he can somewhat right his race, over and done with. But yeah, I'm surprised by Dimas coming in this early. I think the 1-stop could still definitely be possible. I mean, you're only doing, what, 21 laps on the tyre as Chanakinchi gets past Abe Kabadi with the DRS. A nice move there from the Haas driver, and that could be crucial in this battle with Dimas that they're having. But the 1-stop certainly, I think, can be possible. It'll be very touch and go, and you certainly put a lot of wear onto that tyre. It'll be very difficult to get them to the end, and that tyre deficit that Napadowski, Galindo could potentially rack up against him could then come to bite him. Is any of the top 3 coming into pit lane? No, they are not. Is Chanakinchi going to come in? Yes, he is. So Chan's in. Gabadi stays out. Galanay, of course, having to stay out as well. I think everyone else will too. So it's now a real split in the strategy front. Do you box earlier, go for that undercut, try and build that gap and hold on come the end of the race, or potentially try that 2-stop? I still think the 1-stop's the more viable option out of the 2 strategies. But Dimas, if he can get that undercut on Napadowski, say 5-6 seconds, come the end of the race, he could be a little bit under pressure from the Mercedes. But I think his main focus here at the moment, the Red Bull driver, is going to be Carlos Galindo. And again, it's another moment of swings and roundabouts, and if Dimas can build that gap, he certainly has a great chance of staying in front of the Alpine by the time we get to the end of lap 28.
Yeah, and that's another interesting thing that we saw. Normally you see a lot of drivers, if you're in a championship fight with one another, that you react to their strategies. But Carlos Galindo is not focused on what Dimas is doing. He's focused on what the man in front of him is doing, Oleg Napadowski, because he doesn't want to just end just ahead of Dimas. He wants to win this race, and that's where he has his eyes on. He has set his eyes on that big prize, the first win of the season, as Oleg is going at least to try to go for the back-to-back win, making it 2 out of 2 races that he's won, that he's also participated in. Further, currently going down the line to Ave Gobadi. He's dropping a bit of time to Galanay, who's managed to claw back within half a second. I think Ave might go for pit lane and a few laps to come, and indeed he does go into pit lane right now this lap. Galanay does not follow. Same can be said about Bakar. I think most of the drivers are actually not following. It's only Oscar Villacampa who does. But interestingly, Max, Chanakinchi has managed to get himself in that DRS window of Alexander Dimas. So they will be going at it together. But now I'm curious to see, what is Dimas going to do? Is he going to pull Chan along, or are they going to play leapfrog? Going to let the other overtake, then leapfrog them again at the next DRS zone? Or are they going to try and pull away? Because for Avgo Body, the gap now is 1.7, but he might be able to get quite close to Dimas in a moment's notice. But I feel like he doesn't have as much pace as he would have liked to, because Chan is able to stay awfully close to the back of that Red Bull.
He certainly is. Dimas really does seem a little bit off the pace, just like we saw in Qatar, just nowhere near as quick as he has been throughout the rest of the season. I think we're just at a little bit of a point of the season where the tracks aren't just at his liking. But yeah, Chanakinchi's done really well. And I think the leapfrog is certainly viable, but only, I would say, down this back straight, because of course You don't have to get off the throttle. You can just let the other guy by. As you can see now, here comes Chanakinchi on Alexander Dimas, and it's a nice simple move. But the thing is as well, the drivers in front have DRS, so the leapfrog isn't really as viable as it is if, say, if it was just Oleg Nepodosky staying out. So yeah, for Chanakinchi and Dimas, I think they've got a big uphill battle to go, especially with how long these drivers are holding out their stints. I say that, and now coming into pit lane. So this is now crucial for the race. How far in front do Dimas and Akinci come out in relation to Napodosky, Galindo and Relson? Or are they even going to jump them at all? Coming out the final corner now comes Chanakinchi, and Napodosky is heading to the pit lane exit. I think they're just going to get the Mercedes, but it will be close.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if we can get the Mercedes. We have now a good view of everyone leaving pit lane, and it looks like Chan is able to slot in between. And look at that, Galindo fighting tooth and nail now with Alexander Dimas. And it's Dimas who is ahead of his competitor in the championship, Carlos Galindo. Of course, his tires will be 3 laps softer and fresher, but for now, it is Dimas who's managed to make that overcut work quite nicely. But the thing is, we know that with this game, tire management has come into play a little bit more, right? And we saw how well Dimas was able to execute that in Hungary, and I think he's doing a similar thing. I think he's not pulling the tires to full advantage because he knows he doesn't have to. If he can sit within DRS train, save the tires a little bit more, can give him the upper hand later on down the race, and that's when he can use the tires a little bit more, and when his tires will be a little bit better compared to his competitors. So is Dimas already playing that strategy game, or does he just not have the pace? Let's hope that it's the former, and not the latter.
Yeah, we certainly do. There's Galindo down to the inside of Alexander Dimas. Is he going to be able to get this move done? There's contact between the two. On corner exit through turn 15. It's Galindo on the outside of the triple right-hander. What a brave move that would be. And he does get in front of his championship rival. For Dimas, I just don't think he's got the pace. And of course, with that tyre deficit as well, yes, he could be saving. But these guys have 3 laps less wear on that tyre. So they can just shoot by as Jeremy Gallinet is in pit lane as well. And for Dimas, I only see one way for him for the rest of this one. Is here comes Jensen Ralston to the inside line. He then goes for a late send to the inside. Can he get by on Alexander Dimas too as they now head into the S section? Is the Williams going to give way to the Red Bull? Yes, he just has to. But the only way I see Dimas going in this race as it currently stands is down. And for the Red Bull, he's going to be under all sorts of pressure now from the Williams of Jensen Ralston, who we know is oh so quick, was 3rd place before the pit stops. And for Dimas, I just think that tyre deficit is going to get too much, and especially in the later stages of this race, it's just going to be too much and too little too late.
Let's see how that is going to play out further down the line. For Dimas now, it's key to stay within that 1 second of Carlos Galindo up ahead. But all the moments that have happened aside, strategy aside as well, what Dimas has done well is get closer to Galindo. Remember, he started in P6, Galindo started in P2. They now find themselves in P3 and P4. So he's gained net 3 places. He himself gained 2, Galindo lost 1. So for the championship, Dimas is doing very well to mitigate the amount of points that Galindo can gain on him. As it stands, only 2 points that Galindo can take. Of course, Galindo's eyes will be further looking up ahead. But I think for Dimas, also seeing the pace that he has, seems to be struggling a little bit to even stay within that 1 second. I think, Max, he has to go for a 2-stop, try to do something different, because otherwise, a couple of cars behind him are going to overtake him. But with the gaps are right now, I think he's going to lose at least 3 more places. And if he does finish in 7th, that is going to hurt his lead over Galindo.
It certainly will, and if he finishes in 7th, that's 3 points. And if Galindo stays where he is in 3rd, that's 10 points. It'll be a 7-point swing and bring that gap down to 9 in the standings. So Dimas really has to focus on the big picture. He's got to focus on trying to hold on to every position he possibly can. Of course, the ball is in his court. He is the championship leader. But if Galindo keeps putting races like this into perspective, we could see the Alpine finally come out on top. Dimas was just within DRS range of Galindo, but he's used up all his battery, and here comes Jensen Ralston now to the left-hand side, going to pull to the inside just before we hit the braking zone, and he moves himself up into 4th place. Trying to hold on to the back of Galindo did not work for the Red Bull as he used up too much battery, and it was an easy overtake on Alexander Dimas for Jensen Ralston. And now on the back of Dimas is Abe Gabadi, who's going to look to the inside of turn 15. That's a late lunge, even more contact made with Dimas at turn 15, and tyre locking too. That could have been very disastrous very quickly, but for Dimas, he's lost 2 places in the span of 3 corners, and next on the list is Igor Pajeski, who's on the same lap of tyre. I just think Dimas is really just struggling for overall pace here.
Yeah, I don't think he's quite got the pace that he would have liked. The good thing for him, though, is that Abe Gabadi up ahead does not have DRS. Dimas does have that DRS, so might be able to go for a late stand indeed into turn 1. Locks up a little bit, but he's managed to get at least in front for a moment's notice. Now they go side by side through turn 2. They're wheel banging once more. Dimas does not want to yield, but he has to yield. He stays behind for now in P6. But the gap further up ahead is increasing more and more. So it looks like we're starting to get 2 DRS trains. Ralston still has to cut back 2 tenths to join the front 3 runners, but Abe Gabadi 1.6 seconds now. Dimas is within 4:10, so he should be able to go for the overtake down that long back stretch. But it's not looking good for Dimas, who's losing an awful lot of positions, and with him not having any link up to the top 4, means that he has to do something different or settle for a maximum of 5th.
It might just have to, as here he comes once again on Abe Gabadi, and there's contact between the pair. Where have I seen this before between a McLaren and a Red Bull? And it just seems that Gabadi is able to stay in front, but Pajeski is now all over the back of him. He's going to look for the move into turn 15, but Dimas defends it, and the V-Carb not able to sneak away through. Really is struggling here as Alexander Dimas. I don't even think a best of 5th is going to be on as it currently stands. He's tried his 1 attempt, and I think that's going to be it. He only had 1 stab at the cherry, and unfortunately for him, he's going to see himself potentially now fall into the grasps of Igor Pajeski and also Thomas Laminen as well. We could potentially be talking about a 10th place finish here for Alexander Dimas, and you only get that off Jonas Orpel, as there's Galindo to the inside of Chanakinchia. Beautiful switchback from the Haas driver, and he's able to hold on to that 2nd place. But the more these 2 squabble as well here, Myth. Lelit and Napadovsky run away with things for a 2nd race win in a row. And for Galindo, I don't think he'll care too much about that, but still, that's a valuable few points still on offer.
Yeah, and the good news, at least for the man behind, Jensen Ralston has now cut down the gap out to 8 tenths, meaning that he has joined that DRS train. So that little bit of fighting managed, at least for him, to cut down the gap and get within striking distance. For Abe Gabadi, that gap now 2.7 seconds. Dimas is now down almost 9 tenths before heading onto the back stretch. He will get that DRS here, but it will only be enough to get closer on that back stretch instead of going for the overtake that he so desperately wants. So not the evening that Dimas is hoping it to be so far. The only good news for him that the man who's right behind him has a 3-second time penalty for track limits. Cavero, of course, has already DNF'd. He has decided with all the penalties, it's not worth it anymore. As for Orpel and Finn, they also have 3 minutes to their name, as Ram Bakar is currently going for some overtakes onto Jonas Orpel. They're fighting quite hard as well through that final bits, as we're now in turn 18, heading through into 19. But I want to go on board with the Aston Martin man, who just overshoots turn 19. The gap has started to increase a little bit, but he's struggling to try and get there.
It certainly is, and this could actually invite Jeremy Gallinay now into play as he now heads up into the 1st corner. We're going to see a move to the inside line from Gallinay, the Frenchman. Can he get past Ryan Bakar? Yes, he can, with a lovely exit out of turn 1. Was able to send it to the inside line, and the Haas driver now moves himself up into the points. Dimas has now dropped a second away from Abe Gabadi. It's fluctuated between 9 tenths and that 1 second window, and I just think for the Red Bull, he's unfortunately just going to drop out of it before we reach that detection zone. He's going to use all the battery he can to get in there, but no, he's going to fall out of it, and this is going to allow Igor Pajeski to get the best run he possibly can now, as Alessandro Finn picked up a 3-second time penalty while Gallinay made that move. And now we see, heading down the back straight, Alexander Dimas, your championship leader, Now will be coming under pressure from Pezeshki as there's Galanay getting past Orpal. Is the V-Car going to be close enough? Yes, he is. Just gets the move done under braking, and he is up into 6th place. And for Dimas, he falls further and further backwards. And the main man he has to be worried about behind him is going to be that Haas driver of Jeremy Galanay, because he seems like a man on the mission at the moment.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder now what is the issue that is causing Dimas to lose quite a bit, because Pezeshki has been able to overtake him like the others were in the same fashion, the same ease, even though his tires have the same life in them, 8-lap old hards. Dimas, I think, well, we still have about 10 laps to go, but should Dimas go for a 2-stop here and try something different? Because there's only a few men behind. Most of them are likely going to overtake him. He can just hope that he stays within 3 seconds of Pezeshki. There's 3 men behind that are on penalties, and with Covero out, he might even be gunning for 9th or 10th if he doesn't try to switch it up here. And with an alternative strategy, he might be able to go for some overtakes later on in the race, especially when everyone's going to be fighting so hard that he can just catch everyone. And with fresher mediums, might be able to do so nicely. I don't know what Dimas' game plan is right now, but I think if he wants to go for a stop within the next 3 or so laps, he should go for those mediums if he wants to try something else.
Yeah, I think I don't know, it's a very risky strategy doing that, because of course he'll fall a whole pit stop window away, and by the time he catches up, by that point, you're not really going to have that tyre deficit to get your way through, as we see Jeremy Galanay potentially going to go for that move. Yes, he is going to go for that move on Thomas Lammelin. Can he get past Dimas as well under braking? That would be 2 in 1, and what a feat that would be. But no, just not going to be close enough for now. But yeah, for Dimas, I think that's just too risky. In the situation he's in the championship, I just don't think that will be worth it, because of course he's going to get 10th place at the very least, or because he has of course Orpal, Finn and Villa Camper with a 3-second time penalties. He's potentially going to be a 9th place finish thanks to Pezeshki's penalties as well. So yeah, I think that I think that pit stop for the mediums is just a little bit too much of a risk, and I think he just should stay where he is, and it's going to be a 9th or 8th place either way. So I don't think it'll make too much of a difference, and as he now catches up, Galanay catches up to the back of him, I think he should just let Galanay through and just try hold on for the rest of this race, because Akinci is holding Galindo up and he's minimising the amount of points the Alpine can score. So for Dimas, I think it is just hang on to the coattails of the Haas and pray that Galanay stays within 3 seconds of Pezeshki in front.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it, indeed. As for Galindo, I think he's about to smell blood, because he's now gone down to about 3/10. Charles Akinci is starting to lose the time onto Oleg Napadovsky up ahead. He still has that DRS here, so he will now at least manage to well, close down that gap a little bit more. But it looks like Galindo's starting to gain a little bit of extra pace onto Charles Akinci ahead. Remember, Charles Akinci also stopped 2 laps before the men around him in the names of Arausen and Napadovsky. So another thing that they need to look for. But look at that, Galanay has actually gone for a move onto Dimas. He's trying to go round the outside here, switching back to the inside. This could be quite close, but he's actually managed to get the overtake done. Dimas still finds himself on the outside, but has to slot in behind the Haasman, and he now finds himself in 8th. He can still lose a few more places. Ryan Bakar tries to go round the outside and then back to the inside, fully pushing Thomas Laminen off the track. But in turn 20, he will be once again on the inside, and he's managed to get up into P9. There's a lot of fighting going on, and finally, Carlos Galindo is trying to make the move into turn 1. There's fighting all over the track, and round the outside in turn 2, he goes ahead, and he now finds himself in P2. So where Dimas is dropping, Galindo is gaining, and this could potentially be a huge swing in the championship.
This is going to be a huge swing in the championship here for Carlos Galindo. He's going to take a huge haul of points compared to the Red Bull of Alexander Dimas, who of course wasn't able to capitalise last time out in Qatar when Galindo was unfortunately not able to attend, and that has really bit him here just 2 weeks later in the next round in Texas. It is Jensen Ralston now potentially going to go for the move on the Haas driver of Chanakinchi. No, he's just not going to be close enough, but Akinci goes deep, and this is now allowing Ralston to the outside line for turn 14. Galanet's trying to go for Pajewski, but we're going to focus on this battle for third place. The Williams drove to the inside for turn 15, and he gets the move done nicely. Something's happened to Ryan Bakar as he tried to move on Alexander Dimas. He's been spun round, and unfortunately for him, drops to the back of the field as Jonas Orpel versus Alessandro Finn now rages on, and the Red Bull moves himself up into 10th place. And same with Villa Camper as well. He gets past the Kick Sauber too. But for Alexander Dimas, he's now got Thomas Laminant behind him, and this really is going to be a best finish of 9th place this evening, you would think. Actually, no, potentially 8th with Pajewski's penalty. But that is only going to be 3 points as Orpel comes into pit lane. That's only going to be 3 points here, Myth. And compare that to the 12 that Galindo's going to be getting. That is a huge swing in the championship, and that brings the gap down to only 5 points heading into Japan next week.
Yeah, and the worst thing for him now, just look at the gaps up ahead. Galanet's 5 seconds down into Yves Gobadi. Then his gap up to Can Akinci is almost 3.5 seconds as well. The gaps towards the drivers up ahead at this point are so large that it's almost impossible to, even if he goes for a second pit stop, to try and overtake them. The only thing that he can do is to get the positions back that he's managed to overtake. I think for Dimas, there's not much in it for now. I mean, the good thing for him is that Pieseski ahead has that penalty. Laminant behind him does not, so he needs to keep Laminant behind. Galladay is probably gone with the win, so for Dimas, all he can hope for is P7 for now, and with Galindo in P2, he's actually dropped back significantly behind Napadovsky. I'm not sure if he's made a mistake, but he certainly needs to look behind now with Ralston and Akinci trying to slot in there. So that's at least good news for Dimas. Galindo won't be fighting for that race win as it stands now. Got 2 seconds even. But yeah, P8, P7, that might be the max for Dimas tonight.
It certainly does seem so. Of course, Galindo will want to just try and hold on to a podium at the very least. That would be the biggest points haul. Of course, it's either going to be 9 points or 7 points, and that is still a big swing in the championship picture. And, oh, sorry, I did my maths wrong just a little bit ago. It'll be 7 points if he is able to hold on to this second place. And it is a best place finish of 8th for Alexander Dimas. My apologies there, ladies and gentlemen. So you've got to be 7 or 9 points. Going to be the difference in this championship picture. But still, that is a big old swing, especially with only 16 being on offer for that race win. It really does slice that gap down. And now for Galindo, he just needs to hold on against Jensen Rosen for another 8 laps in this Grand Prix. So as we head down into turn 12, I just don't think the Williams is going to be close enough for now to get the move. No, he's not. He's just going to have to sit behind. But for Can Akinci, he's on the same strategy as the likes of Pajewski and Dimas. He came in a lap later than them. He's doing really well on his tyres, isn't he, here, Myth? And he's working this one really nicely and could be on for a podium. And I think... No, his best finish so far this season is a 2nd in Belgium, but he's not been on the podium since Imola, so this will be a brilliant return to form for Akinci.
Will be a great return for him indeed. He does have those hards that are 2 laps older than the 2 cars ahead of him that he is fighting with. At least good news for him, he doesn't have to look in his rearview mirrors because Yves Gobadi is currently down 3.3 seconds. He's also having a brilliant race. Stepping in that McLaren car and immediately putting it on P5 for the time being. Pieseski has now dropped back more than a second behind Galladay. That's good news for Dimas, at least at the start. But yeah, for Dimas, also if he overtakes, still be a sitting down as Ryan Bakar has retired the car in pit lane. That makes the good news for Dimas, with the gap from Alessandro Finn 4.7 behind, that he's at least going to score some points here tonight. But will it be P7 or 8? I think that is the main question.
Yeah, it certainly is, as of course that flag out for Ryan Bakar, who has DNF'd. Unfortunate to see him drop down, and at this stage, if someone else retires, now it could mean a point is on the cards for everybody who finishes. So for Villa Camber, he'll want that somebody else to unfortunately retire from this one if he wants to score at least a point. But Yeah, for Dimas now, he's trying to put PSGL under pressure, but he's going to get that position anyway. So he just needs to focus against Laminin behind as Villacampa gets that move done on Alessandro Finn for 10th place, as they're 4.7 seconds off the train. But have you noticed over the course of this one, Myth, it's got a lot darker, it's got a lot more overcast. So could there be some late race rain on the cards as Villacampa with a big slide out of turn 14? That could have nearly been race ending for him, as him and Finn squabble over that last points paying position. But it's got a lot darker here, Myth, and we could potentially see the heavens open up in the final, now 6 laps of this race.
Well, if that is the case, that would be some saving grace potentially for Dimas if people have to come in at all, or if they all have to come in. Another thing that he is a threat of is, of course, those hards bursting. We've seen it before in Qatar, where drivers thought, oh, we can make it, but the tires did break up at the end of the stint, costing them some potential points. So that's something for him to hope for at the moment, as now Rowson is really starting to amp up the pressure onto Carlos Galindo up ahead. Last lap, this gap was 6/10. Now the gap is less than 5. We see Galindo trying to drive a little bit defensively. Rowson is gaining quite a bit. Is he going to go for a late lunge? Is he going to stay behind? He's going to go for a deep send down the inside, and he actually gets up ahead. He's still side by side they go, so it's inside line now for Galindo. They're wheel banging quite a bit here, but now if he stays around the outside, we'll have the inside line for the next corner, and Rowson has managed to get ahead of Carlos Galindo. Another 2-point swing in that championship. But I think for Galindo, this is far from over, and he will fight back as soon as he can. Oleg Napadovsky is gone, set off in the sun, 3.3 seconds now, but the fight for P2 is on.
Yes, it certainly is. As now we'll see Galindo surely fight back into turn 1 against the Williams of Jensen Rowson, as he's going to use the battery and the DRS to his favour. Rowson defends the inside line. To the outside goes the Alpine. He's going to try and get the up and under here on Rowson. Is he going to be able to do it? He just is able to streak alongside, but being on the outside for turn 2 does not give you that favour, and unfortunately he's just going to have to sit behind once more as we now head through the S section. Carlos Galindo, of course, battling for his championship. Jensen Rowson, of course, battling to try and get up into 3rd in the drivers' standings as well, and is currently on track to do so. So as we now head into turn 10, which will then lead us down into turn 11, it will be about this exit here. If Galindo gets a good one, he'll be able to fight back with the DRS against the Williams driver in front. A little bit of a slide from Rowson. This does give the Alpine the upper hand. It will open DRS once more here on lap 24 of 28 with 4.5 laps to go really in this one, as there's Galindo to the inside. He gets the DRS and he gets the move done with the DRS, and for the Alpine he's able to pick off that position. But again, just like we saw with Galindo, Rowson will not take this one lying down, as Dimas is able to get past PSGL for 7th place. But of course it won't matter too much because he would have got it with the penalty anyway.
Yeah, but the good thing now is that he has a buffer between him and Laminin, because Laminin is someone who we will be fighting with, and if he does get overtaken by him on track, that is going to cost him a position. Pezeshki doesn't have to worry about, but look at that. Dimas's gap to Gallané up ahead, 4.8, 4.9 seconds now even. Gallané is actually gaining quite a bit onto Ave Gobadi as well, so maybe towards the end of the race, Gallané can still try and make some moves to put that Haas on P5 to make it 4 and 5 for Haas. Be a great result down the line. Rowson has managed to close the gap once more onto Galindo at the main straight. So if he can stay close throughout this twisty and bendy first sector, he might be able to go for a move down the back straight and just trade places all the time with Carlos Galindo for a great fight to see who comes out on top and stands on that second step of the podium. And if they don't watch out, Chana Kinshi might have something to say about that and try to get a podium at their expense. For Oleg Napadovsky, we haven't seen him that much during the race. He's comfortably leading 4.2 seconds, got some great pace. It's on the same strategy as pretty much anyone else, and he's just cruising down here with nice braking into turn 12. So all he has to do, well, even Max, even if he gets a penalty for track limits, he will still be ahead comfortably of Galindo.
Yes, he certainly will be. And it just shows how fast Napadowski is. He's really, as soon as he was able to wiggle and just drop Galindo out of that DRS range, and Napadowski has just flown off into the distance, and it's helped by the fact that Galindo and Ralston have been battling too. So it just shows how fast he really is. He's taken back-to-back pole positions. Now back-to-back race wins are going to be on the cards as well. He's topped the last 4 sessions here, including this one, if he does get the race victory in PSGL PCF4. And everything just points to, what if he was here at the start of the season? How much of a championship battle would there be? Would there even be a championship battle if he was able to just be here from the start? It just shows how fast he is, and it's great to have him, and really just to see where he can end up in the championship. Because if he wins every race come the end of the season, he could, if Dimas and Galindo start to have poor form like Dimas has had, he certainly could see himself going into Mexico still quote-unquote a long shot, but in championship contention somehow.
Yeah, I think the main thing is here, PSGL, PCF4, usually the gaps that you see, they're not that big between the top drivers. Of course, with this game, as Igor Brzezinski made a huge mistake heading into turn 11, almost losing the car, allowing Laminen to get closer, potentially launch an attack on them, as Brzezinski was trying to launch one onto Dimas instead. That won't work out for now. But yeah, as I said, the gaps, they've gotten a little bit bigger with this game, but the way the gaps have managed to increase, or at least Oleg has managed to increase those gaps, that's something we didn't really see earlier on in the season. He's actually done really, really well. Chana Kinshi has just left the session. What's going on?
Oh no. What has just happened to Chana Kinshi? Is that the issues that may have been plaguing the server before? And the AI brought him in!
Oh, it's raining!
Oh, no.
It's raining! That's why!
Is it? It is raining! The rain has started to pour! And that's a lifeline to Dimas as well!
Masterclass? Oh no, it's mediums. Never mind.
Pajewski's also come into pit lane. Did he also leave? Did Pajewski also leave, or has he just come in for a Hail Mary at this point? I think he might have just come in for a Hail Mary, and Akinchi's joined back. Oh,
yeah, he's gone for the enters.
Yeah, he's gone for the inters as Pajewski. Akinchi, of course, the AI's boxed him onto mediums. And for Dimas, that's going to be an extra point to his tally. So it's going to be 12-5 points as it currently stands. But that's a big lifeline for the Red Bull. And Galinay now picks up a 3-second time penalty, but luckily that gap's 9 seconds. It's all kicking off here, Myth. And for Chana Kinshi, that's disaster for his race.
Yeah, but now the big question is, how much rain are we going to get? And how fast can Igor Brzezinski be? The gap is 10 seconds at the moment towards Chana Kinshi. He's also gone back to the mediums that he started on. So whatever the AI did was the worst thing that they could possibly do. So that is really sad for him. It said that the game kicked him out, disconnected, and that has caused him to drop. But look at that, Dimas is fighting really hard now with Thomas Laminen. That is for P6. Laminen is trying to go for some switchbacks. The rain is really starting to pick up. Brzezinski's starting to get a little bit quicker, but the gap towards these guys is more than 15 seconds. I don't think it will be that much, as we see Laminen hit the rear of Dimas there. I don't think he sustained any damage as a result. Napadowski's managed to increase his gap a little bit more. Galindo still ahead comfortably of Ralston, so that is good for him. But I think the rain is coming a little too late, as we have yellow in the final sector. That is for Scorvilla Campa, who now sees Chana Kinshi actually come back on him, and suddenly Chan is still able to pick up some points here tonight.
He certainly is, so that's good stuff here from Chana Kinshi. Of course, we are now on the final tour of this circuit. The final lap begins now, and of course with Chana Kinshi here now going to the inside of Oscar Villacampa. This should be an easy move from the Haas driver, and it is on the brakes. Lovely stuff from him, but the main battle really to be looking at for this one is a crucial one in the championship. It may not be for many points, but for Thomas Laminen and Alexander Dimas, this could be a vital point in the championship. If Dimas loses out by a point, he'll know where headers come from this exact moment if he loses that position. But if he wins it by a point, it is also from this battle. So as we now head into turn 11, Alessandro Finn could potentially have a say on things as well, as you'll be using the battery. Will Thomas Laminum to try and close up to the back of Dimas, but I just don't think it will be enough with the DRS and the battery to go for the move into turn 12. No, it will not. But at the front of the field, this is how you introduce yourself as a newcomer. He won in Qatar. Here in Texas, it has been another form of domination. This is a story of what could have been in the championship. Oleg Nepodolsky wins the Texas Grand Prix. A brilliant drive from the Mercedes man. And it's Carlos Galindo with a big swing in the championship, finishing up in second. Lovely stuff from him as well. And for Alexander Dimas, he's just going to be able to hold on over Thomas Lamminen, and he's got to pick up 6th place. That is going to be a total of 5 points in the 6 points in the standings now for Dimas. So it is going to be a total of 6 points gained. It'll be 10 points heading into Japan next week between Galindo and Dimas, but that is a crucial 6 points that the Alpine has just found.
Alright, so Finn is now classified as a DNF, but just before that, I want to point out something. We saw Chana Kinshi push so hard on those mediums to try and make it something work, because Finn had a 3-second time penalty. You want to know what the gap was when they crossed the line because of that penalty? 1,000th of a second that Finn was still ahead.
That would be heartbreaking for Chana Kinchin. It was heartbreaking. A disconnect at the end of the race. Yeah, that's all right. It's a disconnect. You can just join back in. But then the AI, obviously the 2-stop might have been what, of course, the tyres might have potentially had to do. But he could take them to the end just about. Yeah, and that is just heartbreaking.
See, no, yeah, he's ahead. 28.506 against 28.507 for Chana Kinshi.
Oh, so he did get it.
No, he didn't.
Oh.
Finn stayed ahead.
Finn there.
28 of a second indeed. But
that is so close.
That is so close indeed. But of course, our main focus should be on what happened at the front. Oleg Napodovsky picks up his 2nd win of the season. Galindo his 5th second place result out in 8 races. Rausen completes that podium. Ave Gobadi with a great start of his run in P4. Then it's Galanay. Dimas in 6th. Same place he started, ahead of Laminin. Chana Kinshi still picks up 3 points. Oscar Villacampa with 2. And Piazeski, well, actually, no, he won't get any points because Alessandro Finn is still classified there. No points for Piazeski, 1 for Villacampa, 2 for Kinshi, and 3 for Alessandro Finn. Wow. That was quite something, Max. But
that was.
The domination is what really surprised me here.
Yeah, we never really see that type of domination here in PSGL PCF4, of course. That was just unheard of from Nepodolsky. Of course, the only time we've come to domination as close as that was back when Justin Ayers was flying his way up through the field and somehow still taking wins from 2 to 3 seconds clear. So it was just absolutely insane pace from Napodolsky. And it really is just, as I mentioned as he crossed the line, a story of what could have been for this season. Of course, joining late, he's now won 2 back-to-back races in both now Qatar and Texas. If he can win a few more come the end of the season, it is certainly going to be just a what-if scenario. For next season, he could potentially see himself stay here in F4 and really bring it to that title fight. Or he could even move up to F3, he's that fast. It was just absolutely superb driving from Oleg, and he didn't put a foot wrong. And once again, Galindo has to settle for being the bridesmaid and finish in 2nd.
Yeah, and another thing to point out, so he's got 2 pole positions, he's got 2 race wins, that will put him on 34 points, so he's already starting to get very close to top 3 in the standings, only participating in 2, very impressive. Dima is only going to pick up 5 points, so he will move ahead on 77, so the gap between them would be 43 points with 4 races to go. That's probably too much, but who knows. Galindo is going to pick up a nice 12 points, which means he will be on 68, quite a bit bit closer to Dimas, much closer than Dimas would have liked, and I think more than Galindo could have ever dreamt of. So great work by him. Rausen picking up 10 points, will be our new third man in the standings, as Simeone was in there, Polados was in there, and Piasecki, of course, not picking up any points tonight, and with Kenneth also not being there, so on 40 points he will be in third. So great work on that sense. But we're quickly going to move over to the interviews, because we might have a couple of drivers that have something to say to us. Starting with that will be Oleg Napadovsky. So quickly going to change overlays, and then we'll move him in. So here we have him then. Last week, sadly, we were not able to speak to him when he made his debut, get the race win after a pole position. Tonight, he just happens to do the same thing. Pole position and qualifying at Texas, and a dominating race win for Oleg Napadovsky.
Yeah, hello guys, thank you.
That was quite the race for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, first of all, I want to ask if you can hear me good, because
Yep.
I'm from the phone. Okay. Yeah, a bit lonely second stint. I was quite lucky with Chen come out ahead of Carlos after the stop, and then Carlos made his move on Chen. I was able to pull a 1 second gap, and then that was it. I was just faster in race pace, so I got the guys.
Yeah, it seemed to be going quite smooth for you all the way through. But aside from the pace that you already had earlier on the stint, then later on the stint, also in qualifying, you seem to quite have an edge on most of the guys, even though you've just joined in.
I'm just trying my best. It seems like Kota is a good track for me. It really actually never was, but for some reason in this game I'm feeling comfortable. Times in the practice was really good, and the pace overall. And yeah.
Yeah, and another big thing to mention, we were just talking about it together with Max, with that second win and second pole position puts you on 34 points. The man currently third in the standings, if points stay as they are, Jensen Rausen, is only on 40 points, so the gap only 6 points towards P3. The gap to the championship leader, that's 43, so that might be a bit much, but you're already getting very close to getting third in the standings. Very impressive stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you said it correctly. What championship in this season is going to be quite tough. Maybe Alexander will have some bad races, and I can benefit from that. But yeah, at the end, I think that's not going to be possible. But I'm just going to do my best and try to finish as high as possible at the end of the season.
Yeah, now the 4 races that we still have left, so we've got Suzuka coming up next week, and then we have Vegas, Brazil, and Mexico. Out of those 4 tracks, which one are you looking forward to the most?
We will see. I mean, I never really liked racing in Kota, because I really struggled here in like all F1 games. I raced here, and in Japan as well. It's like two my weakest tracks, and I never really looked forward to racing Texas and Japan. But you know, it turns out that Kota is a really good track for me now. So we will see how the things go. Yeah, we'll hope for the best.
All right, then moving on to Max. Any questions from your end?
Yes, one from myself, Oleg. Of course, congratulations on your race win this evening. Of course, next time out, of course, we just previously mentioned, we head to Suzuka. First of all, are you going to be attending? And second of all, are you going to be strong around there? Are you confident for the race at Suzuka?
Again, we will see. I was always weak in Suzuka, like always. Any year, any car, I was always weak at this track. But you know, Kota is the same situation, so we'll see.
Yes, we certainly shall. But yeah, it's a story of what could have been in the standings for you. But you never know. That third place is still going to be on the card. So yeah, hopefully we shall see you next week. Potentially is a third race win in a row.
Yeah, thank you. I hope so too. Goodbye, guys.
Goodbye, and once again, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, that rounds off our interview with the man that finished in P1. Now moving over to the man who's finished in P2 for the 5th time this season and also finds himself P2 in the standings. That, of course, is Carlos Galindo. So let's move him over.
Thanks, mate.
Actually, stellar form when we look at that. You've participated in 7 races. 5 out of those races you finished in P2, but I think you'll be very, very hungry for next week to get on that top step.
Yeah, I the main target for the next races is to win, so I can get more points on demos, and yeah, also trying to prove myself so I can win because it's a bit hard.
Well, it might be a little bit hard, but at least you had a great result this week. Of course, last week you weren't there. Was an opportunity for Dimas to get a whole lot of points on you, because he only managed to increase that gap by 5. Now tonight, you're able to score 12 points. Dimas once again 5, so you're going to gain 7 points if results stands as they are, meaning you're only 9 points down on Dimas with 4 races to go. Looks like the championship fight is really on.
Yeah, I want to win the championship so bad, and I think I can still perform like this good and still gaining points on Dimas at the end of the championship.
And now the tracks are still to come. What's your favorite?
Definitely the last one, Mexico. I think I should have great pace there.
All right, so you're looking to close it out in the final race then?
Yep.
That would be great. Max, any questions from you?
Yeah, a couple from me. Carlos, congratulations on that 2nd place once again. But just how difficult were those final parts of the stint? Of course, you had Jensen behind you and he was scrapping you quite aggressively. Were you just thinking, keep it clean and just see where this ends up, and points are points and they're crucial for my championship challenge?
Yeah, I wanted to finish ahead. I think I had better tire in the end, so I was trying to get a gap on sector 1 so he couldn't overtake me on the main straight, and yeah, hopefully bring some points, and that's what I did. So yeah, happy with that.
Yeah, of course. It was a very nice battle, and you did bring some big points against Dimas. But we head to Suzuka next week. You confident around there? You're feeling like you can carry on with chopping that gap down to Dimas?
Yeah, it's more like the motivation now, because even if it's a bad track for me, I need to put on the practice so I can get to a good pace and still perform good. So because it's very crucial now in these final steps of the championship. So yeah, hoping to have good pace there on quali on the race and perform.
Yeah, we'll hope so too, and hopefully next week you'll finally be able to break that curse of being 2nd place on the podium. We'll see you on that top step. So yeah, congratulations, and we shall hopefully see you next week.
Very much, guys.
Have a good one. Alright, that means we just have one man left on our interview list, and that's the man that finished in P3. Now also moving up to P3 in the standings. Not sure he knows that yet, so let's break the news to him. Let's move over Jensen Rausen. So here is our Williams man, Jensen Rausen. P3 in the race, but more importantly, Jensen, P3 now in the standings.
Yeah, very happy with that, to be honest. Going through practice, I'll be honest, I was absolutely nowhere. I thought, yeah, I'd be like P5 at best or something, but no, pace was good. I mean, I was kind of surprised during quali after a 0.3 or a low 3. My lap was P3. A lot of threes. I was kind of surprised. It just didn't feel very good. I was doing a lot better in practice. Not a lot better in practice, but I had done better. Just not consistently. And yeah, this track is just so difficult. There's so many blind corners. It's really easy to like lose or gain a lot of time in just one corner because you need to cut a lot of the corners, like the first sector especially. So it's just you miss the corner and you lose, you know, a tenth. You cut the corner right, you gain a tenth. So it's not an easy track. You know, and the same goes with track limits. So I got close. I had 2 warnings, but yeah, it was good. And yeah, pace in the race was pretty good. I'm happy. The overcut worked really nicely with Carlos and Oleg. Just yeah, of course, it was a bit difficult. With Carlos getting past Chan because I basically needed him to get past Chan so I could get past Chan. And of course, as soon as he got past, then I think yeah, like a lap later, I got past him. So yeah, unfortunately, the tires just kind of degraded at the end. Like literally, the lap I overtook Carlos. As soon as that happened, my tires just snapped away. They just died. So yeah, I couldn't maintain P2. But yeah, no, it was a nice battle with Carlos. I'm not disappointed. I wasn't really expecting a lot going into this race. And like I say, P3 in the standings is really good. I'm really happy considering my attendance hasn't been ideal so far. So yeah, no, I'm happy. P3 in the standings is very good. Yeah, and hopefully maybe can challenge Carlos, but he's been pretty good this season. He's got insane consistency at the minute. So yeah, we'll have to see. Yeah, and yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, we have some nice consistency from you. The last 3 races that we've seen you also all in a row. A 4th place in Hungary. Last 2 weeks ago you were in 2nd, and now today in 3rd. So continuing that streak of podiums. Very well done indeed. Next week though we head out to Suzuka. How's that track feeling for you?
I love Suzuka. It's one of my favorites for sure. Definitely one of my stronger tracks. Kota has always been one of my weaker tracks, so it's nice kind of having a stronger track for myself. So yeah, it's always just been a track that I think just kind of comes naturally to me. So yeah, hopefully I can capitalize on that and maybe challenge for a win. I mean, I kind of just need to rely on Oleg getting promoted at this point because he's ridiculously quick. I think I imagine either after this race or the next race he'll be promoted because he's just absolutely insane. So yeah, I think it's kind of like I say, just depending on whether Oleg gets promoted or not. But there's definitely a chance for the win there because, like I say, I'm pretty comfortable around Japan. But yeah, we'll see. You never know. Yeah.
All right, sounds very good. Then moving over, Max, do you have any final questions for Jensen?
Yes, one from me, Jensen. Of course, congratulations on that 3rd place. Another podium to your tally. But how difficult was those final couple laps? Of course, the rain started to come down. Did you feel any effects of it, or was it just a little bit too light to start making the track greasy? Sorry.
I don't think the rain was too effective, to be honest. It wasn't too bad. It was kind of noticeable, but I can't tell really if that was just the tires falling off a cliff or if that was the rain, to be honest. Because whilst the rain was coming, my tires were falling off. So yeah, it didn't feel awful though. Like I wasn't getting 0 traction, or I wasn't have to being like super careful on throttle or anything. It was kind of just guessing the track conditions, but yeah, it wasn't too bad. It was very drivable. I mean, it never crossed my mind to like box for inters or anything because the track was fine. We weren't really losing a lot of time, lap time. So yeah, it was alright. It was just I think in terms of grip for me at the end, it was mainly just the tires were going. And the rain wasn't too effective. I think maybe a couple more laps with that kind of rain, it could have maybe started to pick up a bit, but yeah, it was fine.
It did seem a little bit too light to make an effect, but I always thought to give the insight to everybody at home as well, just in case it did play a little effect. But yeah, anyway, congratulations on your 3rd place and enjoy your evening, and hopefully that Suzuka's strength will pay off and you see yourself finally on the top of the pile.
Yeah, thank you. Cinemates.
Alright, so that's it for the interviews as well, Max. We've had quite the race here tonight. Quite dominating performance from Oleg Napadovsky once more. And I think it's fair play to what Jensen Rausen said. He's hoping for him to get promoted to F3. He says he has that pace. Of course, some great compliments going out to the man who's only driven 2 races. But he will be the main guy to beat, even though he is not at the top of the standings. But further up ahead, the championship fight is narrowing down where it was 16 points with 5 races to go. Next week when we head to Suzuka with 4 races to go, the gap between Dimas and Galindo only 9 points. So definitely make sure to tune in next time. For me, myself from Mid-Sky, I wish you all a very nice evening. Max, was another good one, and next week should be epic.
Yes, it certainly should be. So make sure you guys all tune in 8 p.m. UK time, of course, next Thursday for Suzuka. It should be a fun one. Thank you all for watching at home as well. Your support is hugely appreciated by not only me, but Myth as well, and everybody here at PSGL on all the streams we do have. But yeah, it should be interesting, Myth. This championship battle is coming all the way to the wire. And I cannot wait to see what happens over in Japan.
Indeed. So see you all next week in Japan, where we return for round 9 of this season 40 here at PSGL. See you all then. Good night.